and welcome to a very special episode of Lansdowne, where we're looking at a Hungarian opposition preview with a Hungarian football expert. Ben, who is based in Newport, has come on to speak about Hungary from what their side and what they think is going to happen on Saturday. And he's already accepted fate that Ireland are going to batter them anyway. So it's just going to be us talking about how great Ireland are. But anyway, before we start, just make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And a big thank you for Slatterys, who are our partner for the upcoming international games in Dublin across the World Cup qualifiers. And myself, Dave and Martin will be there on Saturday. So if you're in Dublin on Saturday, go into the match, make sure you get the Slatterys before the game. The best place in Dublin for a pint, the best place to be in Dublin, and you'll get to see our lovely faces again, so which is always good. But anyway, Ben, how are you doing? How does it feel to be on Lansdowne Road for the first time? Such an honour, I'm sure, for yourself.
Absolutely. I think it's about time. I mean, me and you have been talking back and forth on your Twitter account for quite a few years now. I remember talking about the under-17 Irish guys who were at the Euros. I've watched them play against Lamine Yamal in Budapest. A few very talented players there. And obviously I cover Liverpool a lot. So we have had a couple of talented Irish players, and also still have one the best, probably the best Trent to ever play for Liverpool at the club at the moment.
Yeah, but anyway, just before we start on with the match, anyway, since you cover Liverpool, what's your opinion on Trent O'Dowda? Because he's a very exciting prospect. Maybe a bit of disappointment that he's not gone out on loan, but he's received his first 21s call up for Ireland. But maybe in the long run, it mightn't work out for him that he's not gone out loan, because we know Jim Crawford, 21s gaffer, is big on lads playing first team football, and it's a big shock really that he's not got a loan. Is it the same from a Liverpool perspective?
It is, absolutely. I was very surprised. He's not alone in this boat, because there's a few under 21 players who should have gone out on loan this summer and who didn't. Trent is one of those players. I'm not sure why it didn't happen. He's been in great form for the under 21 since the start of the season. I think he only officially got one assist, but he's been involved in pretty much all the goals. And if you watch the highlight footages that Liverpool put out on their official channels, he looks like the most dangerous player every time he gets the ball. He's frighteningly quick, and the way he can just take on players and impact the game. He's definitely just too good for under 21s football, and I think we saw that last season. He was already just head and shoulders above in terms of the rest of the under 21s competition. Got his first team debut. I was a bit disappointed not to see him featured that much for the first team in pre-season, actually, but he did play against Athletic Bilbao. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation for him, because Rio Engamoa is now there in the Liverpool first team in the same position, and he is just one of a kind, really, an incredible prospect. So it's difficult for Trent at the moment, which is why it would have made sense for him to go out on loan and get a bit of experience, whether that's in the lower leagues of England or even somewhere in Europe, like Belgium or Switzerland or something like that, where maybe he could even play in a European competition as well. I think he's good enough for that. It looks like it hasn't happened yet, but there are a few markets I think still available. Switzerland is one of them. Belgium is one of them. I think as we're talking on Wednesday, I think the Eredivisie window shuts tonight. So you never know. Maybe I don't have any inside knowledge, but I'm just hoping he does get that move. And if he doesn't, in 6 months' time, definitely he will, because he needs that experience. He's getting to that age, and I think he definitely has the potential to play at a higher level. I think I would compare him to Ben Bocsák, who obviously got that loan move to Middlesbrough, played a couple of games for Liverpool beforehand, and you saw how much that changed his trajectory, the career trajectory that he has had now. He's earned a move to Bournemouth for 25 million, and he's going to be probably playing week in, week out in the Premier League. And I think Trent definitely can follow the same path. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because it's weird because when Massini didn't make the first team squad for the preseason tour, usually that's an indication that lad is thought as, we'll keep him for 21s until we loan him out. So it was kind of a big shock to everyone who didn't get it done, especially last season. Even when I watched him, I watched a good number of the Youth League games, and it was obviously himself and Rio Nkamola on the wings. And I actually thought Trent was the standout player, even of the two. I think in the Youth League, he really shown that he was like ready for that next level. And obviously, Nkamola's like, he's just, as you said, he's one of a kind. Like, you can't really compare Trent to him. You can't really compare anyone at that age too. But it's disappointing that Trent is. But away from Trent and away from talking about Liverpool, because I'm sick of talking about Liverpool. I don't like talking about Liverpool. There's not even before we get into the game on Saturday, there's another Irishman. Actually, there's two Irishmen in Hungary now, playing in Hungary. Well, one of them's a manager, obviously, and they had the disappointment last week of not qualifying for the Champions League, losing to Karabakh, who obviously defeated Shells in the second round of the Champions League qualifying. Is it how is Robbie Keane thought of before Callum O'Dowda? How's Robbie Keane thought of in Hungary? Because I'm sure he won the league last year, but that's is it kind of a given with Ferencvárosi at this stage? You kind of just expect it to happen. And the hope obviously was to qualify the Champions League. Obviously, getting to the Europa League is still a good competition to be in. I think Conference League might have been a bit of a disaster considering where they started in the Champions League. But is there a huge deal of disappointment? Anyone calling for his head because they haven't gone to the Champions League, or what's the thought process?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the reality is that Ferencvárosi have only ever been in the group stages in the last 10 years once. And that team was a very strong team. The team that Keane has at his disposal at the moment is, I would say, actually probably one of the weakest Ferencvárosi teams in the last 5 or 6 years. So just the fact that he got so close to the Champions League, obviously it's the luck of the draw sometimes as well, but just the fact that he's even got so close means this European campaign so far is considered a success. I think it's a massive credit to him what he's managed to sort of produce from this squad, because there were a lot of Ferencvárosi players who were on the fringes last season before he had arrived, who maybe didn't look like they had long-term careers at the club. Particularly the Hungarians, actually, the young Hungarians. Keane has worked really well with them. There's a centre-back who I expect could potentially even start against Ireland called Slatterys. He was someone who had a difficult start to his Ferencvárosi career under Pascal Janssen, but then Keane came in, and under Keane he's become one of the most important players, and he's been really, really good in terms of his defensive side of the game, but his ability on the ball as well. Then he's also produced a bit of a Hungarian wonder kid in Alex Tort, who has now been nominated for the Golden Boy Award. He's only the 4th Hungarian in the last, I think, 10 years to be nominated for that award. The last 3 to be nominated all play for Liverpool at the moment. And Peichi was the other one who's been nominated this year, and then before him it was Milos Kerkez and Dominic Szoboszlai. But again, with Alex, like before Keane, he wasn't really getting a lot of minutes under Pascal Janssen, and then Keane came in. He recognised the potential in him, gave him a lot of opportunities. Alex, repaid those opportunities, and now he's a regular Hungarian senior international, and he's probably one of Ferencvárosi's best players. And Ferencvárosi are probably going to make a lot of money off of him when they do eventually sell him. There's a lot of big clubs looking at him, and just looking at the sort of Champions League qualifying campaign, Alex actually averaged the most expected assists throughout the competition. He's only 19, so he's probably a player that I don't expect he will start in the Ireland game, because I think physically he may need to still develop a little bit. But off the bench, we've seen him come on for Hungary a couple of times and actually create a lot of dangerous situations. He's a very creative player. I normally call him the Hungarian Pedri, because of his ability and his creative qualities. So I think he's one to watch out for as a potential impact sub, and I think it's probably also a sort of headache for the Hungarian national team coach, because ultimately and eventually he's going to have to find a way to play both him and Szoboszlai in the same team, and try to get the best out of them, because they're a little bit similar in how they play for Hungary. And because Hungary play with so many centre backs, he is limited in how many creative midfielders he can have on the pitch at the same time.
And yeah, also away from Robbie Keane, Callum O'Dowda, we've all seen he's gone to Hungary. It's a move that's actually got a lot of usually with Irish players when they make moves. Like, I think it's kind of become the common thought process these days. If a lad's playing in Championship, to like get out of there, go play in the European League, or compete in Europe, competing. I think it's just negatively thought, especially when Cardiff got relegated last season. In fairness, he actually was quite good for them, I thought, and was in a victim of being in a very poor side. And he's right off there. We all thought, going from League One to Hungary, Ferencvárosi, the Champions League qualifiers, obviously qualifying for the Europa League, we all thought, yeah, certainly coming back into the Ireland squad, particularly with Robbie Brady out. And everyone I spoke to, about even Irish fans that have watched O'Dowda since he went to Ferencvárosi, they were saying, particularly in the Carabao first leg, he was by far Ferencvárosi's best player on the pitch, and we just thought he'd be named to the squad, but he hasn't been named. So what has been the thought process in Hungary on how Callum's done so far? And it is a bit of a shock he's not come back in the Ireland squad. I'm sure that even Hungarians as well are surprised not to see him even on the bench come Saturday night.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I think he has started really well. It helps when you score on your debut, especially as a fullback. I think that goes a long way in terms of the fans' appreciation of you. I think he gives Keane a lot more options in terms of, he had one very offensive fullback, a Hungarian guy who creates a lot of chances, but maybe defensively isn't the best. I think O'Dowda is the opposite. I think he's defensively been very reliable and very strong, and that's why he's been playing in the big Champions League games and maybe not playing as much in the First Division games, but that's just because he's being rested for the Champions League matches. So yeah, I think he's had a good start. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the rotation works with him and the other Hungarian behind him in that position. So I think definitely if he maintains his level of performances in the Europa League that he did in the Champions League qualifying campaign, I think Ireland would be foolish not to call him up, because he deserves it.
Yeah, I think we all agree, because usually someone on the channel that Martin, who's on the channel, and Martin's a big fan of O'Dowda. He loves O'Dowda, so we like to slag when O'Dowda plays poorly, but we can't. There's no reason, and even people that would criticize him are all saying, how is O'Dowda not been picked? We all thought, I think it's a big thing when someone leaves England, we all like to give them even more positivity around it. But yeah, it's a big shock there. But on to Saturday night, what we're here to really talk about. What is the excitement levels in Hungary come Saturday night, and what is the Hungarian opinion on this Irish side? Obviously, we played, was it 2 years ago we played? Yes, it was 2 years ago we played these at the Viva, which you were saying was one of the worst matches you've ever been at, when Troy Parrott scored the last minute, which in fairness, he was very lucky to score that last minute goal. It was Glasky was in that day, and he should have really saved it, but it was a poor game. It was a good result for Ireland in the end to win the match. But yeah, so what is the opinion from the Hungarian perspective on the Ireland national team? Is it you expect to come on Saturday and win? And actually, how is there over 2,000 Hungarians expected to be in Dublin on Saturday night? Will there be a big following?
I expect it to be. I mean, even I think it speaks volumes that you said it was 2 years ago, because it does feel like a long time ago. I think it was only 1 year ago, because it was just before the Euros.
Was it 1 year ago? Was it? Oh, it was. Oh, because it was John O'Shea was the Inter manager. Yeah, it felt like a year ago. Yeah.
So it does feel like a very long time ago, but it hasn't been that long. But it speaks volumes of how bad and forgettable that game was, that we think it was a long time ago now. Yeah, I expect. What I was going to say before that is, even then, I think there was a bit of a Hungarian following that came out to Dublin, even though a lot of fans were saving up to go to the Euros and to go to Germany. I saw a fair few Hungarians. I think particularly I'd imagine there's quite a lot of Hungarians already in Dublin and in Ireland, so I think the local Hungarians will also turn up. That's what I saw in that Dublin game in 2024. But in terms of the expectations, I mean, I don't know. Hungary are coming into this game on, we have to be honest, quite poor form. Results haven't gone the way that we have wanted them
I'll put
to.
up the results here actually while you're talking. These are your most recent results, which aren't obviously Azerbaijan is lost to lost to Sweden, lost to Turkey as well, drew with Germany, and then who is that? And then you lost 4-0 to Netherlands. So it's obviously not been great, but yeah, continue on. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, it's not been
No,
great as such.
I mean, yeah, it hasn't been great. And obviously, the Nations League was a very difficult group with the Netherlands and Bosnia and Germany. Hungary got the results that they were expected to get. I think getting the drawing against Germany was a bit of a scalp. But then against Turkey in the Nations League playoffs, it just, yeah, it wasn't a pretty sight. I think at the time, a lot of the Hungarian players were sort of out of form, and they didn't come into it with the best sort of mindset, perhaps, because they a lot of the players were sort of struggling for their club sides. There was an imbalance in the team as well, and that was a disappointing result. Then in June, the Sweden friendly is one that Hungary created a lot of chances in, and probably should have got a result, but again, defensively looked all over the place, which was the case against Turkey too. So defensively, something that Hungary were previously known as being good at doing. We held out a draw against the likes of France, beat England, kept a clean sheet against them in the last few years because of the stability in our defence. That sort of changed over the last year or so, and the defence has looked shaky at times. Even against Azerbaijan, I would say in that game, Azerbaijan caused Hungary quite a few problems, and it was a bit of a struggle in the end to get the result over them too. So going into this game, I think there's a bit of apprehension. I don't think the expectation is that Hungary are going to go to Ireland and going to batter you guys. I think, yeah, we don't quite know what to expect. I think the fact that you guys are home, and based on what happened last year,
Yeah.
I think for me, Ireland are probably the favourites for this one anyway. I think Hungary will be the favourites for one in the Puskás Arena, but for this game, it wouldn't surprise me if Ireland did get the result.
And just from an Irish perspective, what do you see in an Ireland team that you could possibly fear, or is it not just fear? Is it just because you think that Jews are quite weak defensively? And I'm guessing is Willie Orban, is he past his best? Is his best years behind him? He would probably be the rocket your centre of defence. But is it do you look at players like Evan Ferguson with any fear? Obviously, he started very well at Roma, or is it just sort of thing that we don't fear anyone in that Ireland team, or is it just we just think we're just not at our best, so Ireland have a chance because of that, and obviously Troy Parrott's going to be out for Ireland. But in my guess, I don't think Troy Parrott would have started the game anyway with the way we seem to play with one striker and then a number 10 behind them. But yeah, is there any Irish players you fear at all?
I think mostly it's the Irish system. So you guys play a very similar system to us, and I think what I fear is Hungary might try and control possession more and instigate chances. And if they do that, Ireland and what Hungary is also good at is just sitting back, defending, and then trying to counter attack the opposition. What we saw against Turkey, for example, is that system changed, and Hungary tried to initiate possession, initiate passing, and tried to be a bit more open. And what resulted in that is in transitions, in especially in those defensive sort of transitions, Hungary were all over the place. Turkey just counter-attacked us time and time again and cut us open. And yeah, that's what I fear when it comes to Ireland. Obviously, with all respect to Ireland, you're not Turkey. You don't have as quality of a players as Turkey do, but you do have, I think, a lot of talented players. I mean, you mentioned that I'm from Newport, so I remember Finn Azaz, who was a very good
Good
creative
player.
player here at
Good
County,
player.
and I wouldn't say he's probably the one who I would look out from an Ireland perspective the most, but I think in this game, probably Evan Ferguson is the one to watch out for. I think he could have a bit of fun against this Hungary defence. And Nathan Collins, I think, will be probably key for you guys too, because if you can keep a solid defence, and he is a very, very good defender who I think will ultimately move on to bigger and better things from Brentford. I think you guys will have a good chance of getting a result. And you mentioned Willi Orban. I mean, it's a tough one. He was like Hungary's Virgil van Dijk. You know, when he was playing, you could rely on him, and you knew you could get a result. But over the last sort of 12 months, that's changed a little bit. I think it hasn't helped that Hungary haven't found the two players to play alongside him. They haven't found a stable partner alongside him, which he had in years prior. And at the same time, he's playing in a Leipzig team that are all over the place at the moment. They lost 6-0 to Bayern Munich in their opening Bundesliga game. They failed to qualify for Europe as well last season. So, like I mentioned, that lack of confidence that impacted the Turkey game, I think could impact the backline again. Although there are some encouraging signs apart from Orban and the two Salahis, they're playing well in Ferencvárosi, and the other one has gone back to Turkey and has played really well there. So there's a bit more optimism and confidence going into these games than I think there were to the Turkey ones. Obviously, Milos Kerkez and Dominic Szoboszlai, they've been incredible for Liverpool since the start of the season. And on top of that, we have Roland Shalai playing very well for Galatasaray, who are in the Champions League, and Barnabas Varga has been electric for Ferencvárosi this season under Robbie Keane. If he gets a chance, he will score. And that was something that maybe Hungary lacked against Turkey, and also against Sweden in those friendlies, because we didn't have Varga in the form that he's in now, and we didn't really have a clinical finisher. So if you look at like the sort of XG numbers in those games, they were probably a lot closer than the results would suggest.
Yeah, and you're talking about that. There is there any way you think Ireland could hurt Hungary? Sorry, because we look at it and we possibly think, as good as Kirkes is going forward, he may get caught out going backwards if he's bombing on down the wing, and especially if he's playing as a wing back more than anything. And you see obviously we have a Bene back now, who at one stage, I actually asked him yesterday at the presser, has he lost any pace? And he said his numbers are the exact same as what they were before, which is an encouraging sight. And you see he's able to just hit the ball and run. And even with Casey Lackett here, who's recently moved to Ipswich as well, and he's doing quite well. And even Festi, who was electric for us in a couple of games over the Nations League, wasn't even picked for the squad. So we've good depth in that position. Is there anywhere like that you think Ireland could hurt Hungary in that sort of area and transition, or is it transition really you think is where Ireland's best hopes are?
I think it's definitely those transitions where you could hurt Hungary. And again, I think it just depends on what Hungary and what Ireland decide to do. If Hungary decide to sit back, I expect it to be a difficult game for Ireland. But if you guys decide to sit back and just give us the ball, I think that's when you can probably hurt us. I think this is going to be a weird analogy, because if people don't watch basketball, they won't get it. But right now, the Eurobasket, which is like the European Championships of basketball, is going And Slovenia have one of the best NBA players, like one of the best basketball players in their team, in Luka Doncic. And they came up against Poland, the home side in the competition. And what Poland did was just sort of limited Doncic's impact in the game. And ultimately, I think if you take Doncic away from the Slovenia team, the Polish and the Slovenia team are quite even.
Yeah.
Obviously, basketball and football are different sports, but I would say at this moment in time, Hungary are very reliant on Szoboszlai. So Poland were able to beat Slovenia in the Eurobasket because they limited Doncic's impact. And I think if Ireland can do the same to Dominic Szoboszlai, limit his impact, and make sure he doesn't pull off anything individual like he did against Arsenal, for example, then you will have a good chance of getting a result. And I think that's what a lot of teams have found out. Turkey definitely frustrated Szoboszlai at times. He is a world-class player. He's a fantastic talent, but if you stick two players on him, like anyone, he's going to struggle. I think even Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo struggled when they had to be double teamed, and it's the same for Szoboszlai. So if you can find a way to press him and control his impact, then you might have some luck in that area. And that's, I think, ultimately what Ireland, if I was Ireland, I would be doing.
Yeah, I honestly do 100% agree, because I would argue Ireland probably, other than Szoboszlai, I know Kirkes as well, but sometimes at the left back it can kind of be hard for them to have that impact. Ireland probably is stronger overall just with the other players we have, but obviously your best player is better than our best player. But anyway, heading into the match on Saturday, we're going to look at the team you think that Marco Rossi selected. And just before, Hungary, he's been in the job quite a while. Is Hungarians all very happy with him in charge? Delighted he's taking you into this World Cup qualification, or is there any resentment at this stage, thinking maybe we might need to move on to the next gaffer?
No, I don't think anyone feels like we need to move on. He's a legend in Hungary for what he's achieved.
3 Euros in a row, isn't it?
Exactly, and obviously the first Euro he wasn't involved in, but the second Euro is he's played a very key role. When you beat England 4-0 as well, you ultimately become
Hero in Ireland as well.
Exactly. So I think no, there's no question in terms of his role. Also, there's not any other sort of managers, Hungarian or coaching in the Hungarian league, who are showcasing enormous potential to take over from him. So no, he's 100%. I think long term, whatever happens in this qualification, he will be staying on.
Oh, that's good. And anyway, yeah. So on to your starting 11 thing. The graphic I have isn't as good as usually what the one we have, because the website they usually use, for some reason, one of the players did not. It acted like he didn't exist. So, but anyway, this is the team that you think Marco Rossi is going to go with on Saturday.
Which player was it? Out of curiosity.
Atvas is how you pronounce it. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why. It was like his name didn't exist in the system. Even when you put in his first name and you search through Hungarian midfielders, he didn't come up. So I don't know why.
To be fair, it is a bold call from me, because it will be his national team debut if he does play. But the reality is Hungary need a holding midfielder, and normally our holding midfielder Adam Nudge, who plays in Italy, he's not been selected for this one. Andras Schaefer is injured, and another one, Nikica, who's been playing in more recently, who was a La Liga midfielder and has just made a move to Portugal to play in the Portuguese top flight. He again didn't get selected. Utrecht, however, on the other hand, has been probably one of Ferencvárosi's best players in their Champions League qualifying campaign. He can play as a centre-back, he can play as a holding midfielder. So I think based on his form and based on how well he's done in Europe, he's going to get the call-up, because essentially there's no one else who can play that role. So that's why I've gone for him
And
in the team.
do you want to take us through your rest of your team? Because I think the other one maybe fans might recognise, but is Callum Styles, obviously, because he plays for West Brom. But other than that, do you want to take us through the team? Because obviously there's obvious ones like Szoboszlai and Kirkhouse, but if there's anything you want to take us through.
Probably let's start with Styles, because again, I think maybe some Hungarians might disagree with me on this selection, but I think he's been really good in the championship this season. Obviously, Ireland have a lot of championship players, so I think that physicality that Ireland are going to bring, Styles is going to be needed in that midfield. So that's why I've gone with him. When he came on against Ireland last year, he looked really good. I think he started the game against Scotland as well at the Euros. So I expect him to be given the nod. Again, Scotland and Ireland are kind of similar opposition in the sense that you guys have a lot of players playing in England. So that's why I've gone with him. He's more of a defensive-minded player as well. So as you mentioned, maybe if Milos Kerkez bombs forward, he can cover that left-back area. He has played as a left-back for Hungary as well. Then also I don't need to introduce Kerkez and Szoboszlai, but Bendegúz Bola is quite a good wing back who plays in Austria, and he's just qualified for the Europa Conference League. Roland Shalai is, I think, going to be probably one of Hungary's biggest threats going forward. He is a very tenacious attacker. He actually plays as a right back for Galatasaray. He's been transitioned into that role because he's finishing, and I think, some of his decision making in the final third has never been his greatest strength, but he's got so much energy. He's quite quick. I think he'll be a threat. He will constantly just run and run, and he will cause Ireland problems. I mentioned Varga. He's just a fantastic finisher. He's a proper target man. I think him battling up against Nathan Collins is going to be an interesting one. The goalkeeper Dibus, we obviously have Gulaci, so people might be surprised that Dibus is starting, but Gulaci has retired from international football, so Dibus is the most obvious sort of goalkeeper. I think one thing to keep an eye on is not particularly strong with his feet. He's given away a couple of goals for Ferencvárosi and for the Hungarian national team just by passing to the opposition. So it'll be interesting to see if Ireland press him. And then we have probably a commentator's nightmare into Salah's at centre back. Gabor is the one on the right who plays for Ferencvárosi, and then Attila is a very experienced Hungarian international who has been in the Bundesliga, played for Fenerbahce as well, and is now back in Turkey. And he's been out of the Hungarian national team for a while because when he was in Germany, he wasn't getting a lot of game time, but he's gone back to Turkey, and he's playing regularly again and actually playing really well. So I expect, because of his experience, he will be brought into this team.
And is Peter Gulaski much of a, would you say he's a big loss at this stage of his career, or is it kind of that it was time to move? I know he retired, this is obviously his decision, but was it time to move on to the next keeper, or would you say if he was still available to the national team right now, he would be straight away into the team sheet?
Oh, he would be. I just think at this stage of his career, he's struggled with a couple of injuries, so you can understand his decision to retire, and he probably wants to spend a bit more time with his family as well, so you can understand it. But he's still a Bundesliga proven goalkeeper. He's still starting for Leipzig in the Bundesliga, so he would absolutely be starting. So Dibus, with all respect to him, he's a good shot stopper, but he is a bit of a downgrade, especially I think when you look at Ireland and you've got Keane Callum. I think a brilliant goalkeeper. He's fantastic with his feet, and he's a brilliant shot stopper as well.
Yeah, and So, like, just defence, we're just thinking that because an area Ireland can hurt teams as well is through set pieces, and especially with the likes of Nathan Collins, even Evan Ferguson is massive, Darrow O'Shea, and the Manning's obviously good set piece here. Usually Brady, but Brady's set pieces are usually quite poor, and particularly if he decides to go with Jake O'Brien over Matt Doherty, that's a monster really in there. And like, what is Hungary like defensively from set pieces? Do you think you'd be okay to deal with Ireland's aerial threat?
Yeah, that's probably one thing I'm not particularly concerned about. Orban is, a monster when it comes to set pieces. Erzfesh, if he plays, he's very tall. And then you have the two Soleils, who again are pretty strong and quite tall. And they'll be able to deal with those situations. So I wouldn't necessarily. I would say that's probably Hungary's biggest threat as well, to be fair, from set pieces, because we've got Szoboszlai's delivery. He can hit, Hungary do score a lot of goals from his set pieces, whether that's free kicks or corner kicks. That is one of Hungary's strengths. And in Varga, they have a player who can head it in from anywhere. And he's very good in dealing with those aerial challenges. And I think that's why I said it's going to be such a fascinating battle between him and Collins, because we know Collins in the Premier League. I sort of profiled him as a potential target for Liverpool, particularly because he's comfortable with his feet and he's very strong in the air as well. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, that matchup.
And if Hungary are going to come to Dublin on Saturday and win a match, what is going to be different for Hungary? Is it just going to be something simple, a Szoboszlai moment of magic, or is it something that you think tactically, or a player that we mightn't think makes a difference will make the difference?
I mean, I'm hoping Hungary surprise me, but I think if Hungary are to win, they're going to be playing very deep, and they're going to be hitting Ireland on the counter attack. It could be a Szoboszlai magic. It could be Roland Shalai running in behind the Irish defence. And I think ultimately it's going to be very similar to the Scotland game. Hungary get a counter attack, maybe later on in the game, or maybe earlier on in the game, and then they just sit back and defend. And I think I wouldn't expect it to be like a 2-0 or 3-0 game. I think it's going to be very close and very tight between the two sides. I think it's going to be 1-0, maybe 2-1, but definitely not a high scoring game like 3-2 or 4-3 or anything like that. It's going to be very, very even, very tight, and neither side will want to be taking risks. So that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, just as we wrap it up here, I was going to ask you what is your final score prediction from a Hungarian perspective? Are we going to come to Dublin on winning Saturday, or what will the scoreline be?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be a Hungary win, but I think I'm going to go with my head, and I'll probably say maybe a 0-0 draw.
Oh jeez, don't say that. That's the worst possible result. But as you're saying, a 0-0 draw. Would Hungary be delighted to go away from Dublin with a 0-0 draw? Is that a good result? Because it's kind of thing for Ireland. The first game at home, you really want to set a marker, and if you're going to finish top two, you kind of, in my opinion, you kind of do need to beat Hungary, because obviously you have Portugal next week at home, and there's no better way of going in against playing Portugal at home, and obviously they're going to be the favourites. But if you get a positive result in Dublin, it kind of gives you that mentality that you can go and maybe get a shock win.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, because this is such a small group, Hungary haven't really been in such a small group before. Things like every result matters and counts. And I think for that reason, obviously for Ireland, because they're at home, this is even more important. But even for Hungary, getting a draw, I wouldn't say Hungarians are going to be delighted, but it could be a really important result to ultimately decide who's going to be finishing second and getting that playoff spot, which again, you still have to play, I think, 2 more ties to make it to the World Cup. So even that is not going to be a massive celebration, but it is really important to get that spot. And I think both sides have it in them, with all respect to Armenia, although I wouldn't be surprised if Armenia actually, caused an upset and got a couple of results against Ireland and Hungary. But yeah, on paper, we all know Portugal is going to finish top, and it's between Hungary and Ireland for the second spot. And because of that, every single result matters and every single result counts. So it's going to be really important for both sides to get off to a good start. But just because Ireland have that home advantage, I think it's going to be a little bit more important for you guys to get a result. And obviously, if it's a draw, Hungarians are probably going to be more happy than Irish fans.
Yeah, all right. We'll wrap it up there, Ben. Thanks very much for coming on and speaking about the game on Saturday, because it's great to get a Hungarian perspective, not everyone being biased, being Irish. But so where can people check you out? Because you're a freelance journalist and you do a lot of great work, and even on social media stuff. So what, we'll have your links in the description, just on the social media, where else can fans find you?
Yeah, just on social media. If you follow my account on Twitter, if I know there's a lot of Irish Liverpool fans, so maybe they'll be less interested in my Hungarian content. Actually, maybe in the next few months until the World Cup qualification is over, even that might be interesting. But mostly, I cover and talk about Liverpool on my social media. So if you're a Liverpool fan, definitely, you might have something. You might read something interesting from my account anyway.
That's good. So thanks very much, Ben, again for coming on, and thanks everyone for watching, which I hope you really enjoyed this show with Ben. I think it was very interesting to get to know his perspective on this game. And if you like that video, make sure you like it, you subscribe to the channel, and thanks again to Slatterys for the partnership with the upcoming World Cup qualifiers at home. And make sure you get yourself to Slatterys on Saturday, because it will all be there and it'll be an enjoyable one. And hopefully we can come home with the 3 points. No offense, Ben, but I think Ireland have enough to go and win that game, and it's very important. So thanks again, lads, and we'll see you in the next one.